Hi guys, welcome to another day. I've got a cheeky little Eastbourne today, so lovely jubbly. Don't mind a bit of that, don't mind a bit of that, my son. Oh, had an enjoyable day off yesterday. Oh dear. The boiler passed an inspection and only just though, only just. The old boiler passing the inspection and the shopping trip, and Bert's having to go all places she doesn't know, and she's not the most confident driver, so it's a case of she gets a bit worried when she has to go to places that she doesn't know, because she spends a lot more time concentrating on driving the actual vehicle than noticing road signs and things like that. So when she has to go somewhere new, she gets really panicky, even with prat navs and stuff like that. So I have to kind of sit there and say, no, if you go to this one, then you can walk. Oh well, I don't mind walking a bit further if I can stay on the outside of the town and things like that. And to be fair, Colchester, you got places to park, but you never know how much it's going to cost. And you never know for how long you're going to be able to stay there before they close, because she's down there training tomorrow. She's actually gone to check it out today. And of course there's other places in Colchester that's all permit parking and stuff like that. So had to chat about that yesterday, which is fun, because obviously being the driver, how do you get to this place? Yeah, I have encyclopedic knowledge of all roads in Britain. Hold on a minute, let's have a shufty. But yeah, it turns out that if you turn the subtitles on to what I say, or to what I'm supposed to be saying on my vlogs, then I end up talking about killing people, some addresses, and God knows what else. It's because you don't enunciate, sir. You must enunciate. It's because I use a lot of colloquialisms, and it just screws everything up when you do stuff like that. But anyway, who cares? Who cares? I am off to sunny Eastbourne, so I suppose I should finish off my paperwork. I don't need to clean the windshield, that's all clean. Lovely jubbly. I'll then go in and see whether my load is ready yet. Might be, might not be. Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, I shall see you a bit later on. that's a delivery Eastbourne done, lovely jubbly. And it was a nice simple drive down. I mean, the A27's a bit screwed at the moment because they're going to be closing it. Supposedly it's closed from the 19th, well that was yesterday. I think it's at night, but God knows what they're doing, but that was a bit knackered. A bit start-stop. Such is life, such is life. But now I've been chatting to Simon, and he's got a couple of ideas, a couple of ventures he wants to talk to me about. So see how that goes. Yes. It's really just one of those kind of quiet days today. You know, it's odd. You get going, you do your run. It was very quiet on the roads. There wasn't too much going on. It was all just plain sailing until about the A27, and then it would stop. We'll move a bit, stop. We'll move a bit, stop. Went past oversized load. I think I'll see if I can find that and edit it in. But I'm curious about how I should enunciate my words. Because if I say something wrong, I could be saying anything. I mean, if you're hard of hearing or something, I could literally be saying anything at this point in time. So that's in the back of my mind now. it's kind of, I wonder what I'm saying today. If I start speaking in gobbledygook, do you think that'll actually improve things? Yeah, no. Oh dear. But, oh well, such is the way of the world, such is the way of technology. It gets it right every time, doesn't it? The chances are, it's deliberate. If you're hard of hearing, technology doesn't like me. It hates me. It detests me. And so it doesn't want you to know what I'm saying. Oh yeah, isn't it? No, I've only read this in passing, okay? I'm not saying this is fact at the moment, but I've read this in passing. And it's looking like the Japanese guy who died in the Tesla was on autopilot as well. That's 2 confirmed kills so far. From what I've read, anyway, but you know. Autonomous vehicles are the way. Bollocks. It's the one thing that's always amazed me about Elon Musk. Is everything that he's invested in. I mean, I understand investing in futures. It's the way things evolve. It's the way technology moves forward. But if you look at his investment portfolio and then watch the original Total Recall, that's all he's invested in, his bits and bobs that could make Total Recall a reality. Or at least that's all it seems to be. It's a bit bonkers, really, that you would be almost dictated to by a science fiction film from the 80s. It's a bit odd, isn't it? It's strange. But anyway, that's me. That's my view of it. But it does freak me out sometimes. You know, people seem to forget the reason that we have human interaction with certain things, with machinery. I mean, what works in a field, on a farm, for example? It's a field. There's no one around it. If it goes haywire, the farmer turns up, finds it in the ditch and goes, oh, really? I mean, that's fine. I can understand that. I mean, it does save a heck of a lot of work, and nobody wants to be farmers anymore. Nobody wants to be growing crops these days. Unless they're born into it and they're the landowners. Nobody wants to do it. So I can understand that. But there are reasons... Oh, that was close. A car just went to pull out without looking, and there's a police van turning in at the same time. That was close. And the police van just shrugged. Carried on coming in. Ooh. That I would have liked to have seen. In that situation, I'd have probably turned my forward-facing one on and gone, look at this, guys! Some cars pulled out into the side of a police van. What, didn't you see it? But, no, there's human interaction for various reasons, but the main reason that I can think of is making a choice. Let's say, for example, you're a parent. Okay, you're driving along. A kid runs out in front of you. You have two choices. Swerve your car into another vehicle and potentially die, or try and stop. Every parent on the face of the planet would spin that steering wheel without thinking about it. They just boom. The machine won't. The machine will try and stop, and if the child's too small, it'll assume that it's an animal of some kind and just go boom. It's going to ruin a lot of people's days. But there's loads of little examples like that. Certain things should always have human interaction. I'm a big believer in that. There's a lot of things that don't need it, and there's a lot of industries that have died because of automation. But certain things do. There's a certain level of making that decision, and a machine won't. It doesn't matter how it's programmed, the machine will protect the people in its car as much as possible. I'm hoping that's how it's going to be programmed. Otherwise there's going to be a lot of people ending up dying for no apparent reason. You know, a fox runs out and they're slammed into a wall. But there's that kind of thing. And we seem to be running away from it. Like it's bad. Like allowing humans to choose what they believe is right and wrong is bad. And certain things I agree with. Obviously certain things I agree. You shouldn't let a psychopath decide whether it's right to kill someone. Of course. You should never do that. But in daily average life, certain things are being taken away. And it's a bit... I don't know, it's just... I mean... you can sit there and say autonomous vehicles are going to ruin the logistics industry. Put a lot of people out of work, for example. A fair few million people globally. But it's not that. Fair enough, there's a lot of people who would end up losing their jobs, potentially. But it's little things. It's like, you won't be able to drive. Because your car's got to be able to communicate with every other car on the face of the planet, if everything's autonomous, because autonomous vehicles need to know what the car in front of them is going to be doing. Now, I suppose, if somebody came up with, for the classic car market and motorbikes and things like that, somebody came up with an invention that allows your car to actually communicate to another vehicle. For example, everybody have to drive around with, say, an inbuilt prat-nav. Yeah? And you program where you're going. Even if you know where you're going, you program where you're going and you follow that route. And as long as you do that, you're allowed to drive. Because your car will be sending out messages to all the autonomous vehicles around it. Or motorbike. The thing is, with a motorbike, how the hell are you going to read a prat-nav? And on some motorbikes, where the hell are you going to put it? So, if somebody comes up with an invention whereby you kit your vehicle out with various sensors and, say, a Fleetboard thing that reads what you're doing, and then when you indicate, it sends a message to the autonomous vehicle behind saying, I'm going to be turning, then fine. But then again, of course, you're going to have human error where they don't indicate. So it's all... Do you allow human error to continue, or do you remove human error completely? In removing human error, you get rid of motorbikes, classic cars, car clubs, most likely vehicle racing. They're already testing autonomous vehicle racing. Vehicles that can drive themselves, racing one another. Am I the only one to think that's a bit thick? You watch it to see who the better driver is, not the better vehicle. So let's get rid of the driver and then, yeah, autonomous racing. Well, if they're all running an autonomous program, surely everyone's going to write the program the same way. And you're going to have everybody finishing at the same time, or taking themselves out completely. It's bonkers, isn't it? Autonomous vehicle racing. It's a thing. It's actually a thing. If I'm lying, I'm dying. It's a thing. Who is that for? And seriously, who is that for? Because it's bonkers. If you want to do something like that, then kind of remote control them and have gamers do it. At least then there's some kind of human interaction in the actual racing event. But that's bonkers. It makes you think, doesn't it? It's like, well, who's coming up with all of this? Because I don't mind progress. I don't mind things like that. And yes, people will most likely have to retrain and become something else. Okay, fine, whatever. But it's just, you're taking it away from everybody. And everything. I mean, how are you going to ride a push bike? Because you want to keep fit, okay? Let's walk away from driving completely. How are you going to ride a push bike that cannot communicate with autonomous vehicles with autonomous vehicles? How are you going to do that? So where are you going to ride them? Oh, in designated cycle paths. How much is that going to cost? And then of course you got all the sensors. Even the large companies specialising like Google and people like that, specialising in autonomous vehicles. Yes, when you've got a co-pilot on board, it can do certain things and it can go certain places. But the reason we're spending so much on getting smart motorways is for the infrastructure to be able to use them. I mean, you're going to need sensors here and there because GPS systems are not perfectly accurate. Not at speed. I mean, if you're standing still, it's got a good chance of getting it right. But at speed, there's a little delay. You know, dying, little delay. And 70 miles an hour, a little delay can get me from here to Graham's directly opposite me. You know, and then, oh, better correct course. I'm going in a ditch. You know, so there's going to have to be some form of way of communicating them. And it's just, I'm sure there's technological solutions. But it's just everything else that's going to have to change. And I don't know whether that's actually advancing the human race or devolving the human race. Because it's that kind of, to me, it's that kind of borderline. It's, are we advancing ourselves or actually devolving ourselves? I mean, if you're a business orientated individual who's always doing bits and bobs, then a vehicle driving for you whilst you've got your laptop out, you're doing all this, fine, okay, whatever, it's helping you do your job. But what happens if you're motion sickness? What happens if you're not one of those people? Then what you're doing? You're wasting that time. You're not actually doing anything in that period of time. And that's just, at least driving gives you a mundane task, something to actually be doing. I don't know, I don't see it as evolution myself. I really don't. I see it as becoming way too lazy. Not that evolution has made us lazy over the years, obviously, but just, I don't know. It gets to me on a different level than because I'm a truck driver. But it's going to be an ongoing debate for as long as it's about, until we know exactly which way it's going. And like I said, we don't exactly know which way it's going at the moment. But it's just, it should be odd. It should be odd. And then of course, you know, nobody needs to own cars. So you can just rent one. You know, phone up, say, I need to book one at such and such. And off comes this autonomous pod, you get in it and zooms you off to work. Well, fair enough, whatever. But in an accident, whose fault is it? Is it the person who rented you the vehicle? Is it you, even though you've got no control over the vehicle yourself? Or is it the manufacturer? So in an accident situation, because there are going to be some, it's law of averages. You know, something in the system will fail in one of the vehicles and that will cause it to move where it shouldn't have done and there'll be an accident. And I think everybody can agree with that one. But in that situation, who gets sued? It's a good question, isn't it? It's a good point. Because do you really need insurance? Well, no, because you're not driving it. You've got nothing to do with it. You have literally booked a vehicle to take you to work on a specific day. So, who's at fault? Because it can't be you. I mean, you're not driving. There'll be no steering wheel or anything like that. The pods that are coming onto the market these days, there is nothing. So you whoops-a-daisy, say you knock a pedestrian down, for example. The pedestrian walks out, sensor doesn't pick it up because it's broken, and thvumph. Who gets sued? Because if an accident is severe enough, or if enough people are involved in it, for example, then the manufacturer is going to be held liable. Software fault, whatever. And a lot of companies will go bankrupt because of the lawsuit costs. It does happen, you know, you take certain size companies, you can wipe them out. If Google gets sued for the right reason style thing by a lot of people at once, you can bankrupt Google. So I'm curious as to how that's going to play out, because there is no way you can blame the passenger in an autonomous vehicle. It's a bit like saying, just to kind of quantify this, it's a bit like me driving this truck, having an oopsie-daisy against somebody, and then my passenger getting sued. Do you see what I mean? The passenger, because that's what you will be in an autonomous vehicle, especially if you don't own it and it has no controls. You will be a passenger. So it cannot be your fault. It can only be either the manufacturer or the hire company that hired the vehicle because the maintenance wasn't done correctly. Well, if like I said, if enough people, if the claim is big enough, then one of the companies could potentially go bankrupt, and then you've got a whole new problem. Lots of people out of work. A manufacturer may be just vanishing. It's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? Because who is at fault? He's quite curious. But anyway, I think that's enough prattling on today. I do have a shift tomorrow at 1300. So all good, all good. God knows what it'll be, but I've got one tomorrow. But anyway, thanks for watching. Do like, subscribe, share about, do whatever it is you usually do. I'll see you in the next one, which is going to be tomorrow. Oh well, finish out my break and go back, I suppose. See you later, guys.